Okay, we're back, we're live. We're here with Donna Fouts, and she's the Executive Director of United Cerebral Palsy of Hawaii. Here on Aloha United We Stand, which is an important program I'll talk about. And we're talking today about United Cerebral Palsy of Hawaii. Welcome to the show, Donna.
Thank you, Jay. Glad to be here.
Great to have you here. You know, when I said I wanted to talk about Aloha United We Stand, that's Aloha United Way. Right. And they help a whole bunch of charitable organizations like yours, Health for one, but there's many, many others. Yes. And they're part of the, and they create and support the social safety net in our state.
Very well.
And if they didn't do that, oh boy.
Yes.
It would be a problem because you would leave it to government, and the government can't handle that kind of thing on any number of levels. And so what we have here in Hawaii is a strong sense, may I use, despite the movie, a sense of aloha.
Okay, yes, yes.
I'm entitled to use that term. I'm going to use it as much as I want.
Okay.
And, you know, you are the expression of that, helping people who have problems that can't otherwise be solved, where they're, you know, in trouble. And, you know, my hat's off to you. My hat's off to Aloha United Way for all that you do. And I think that you make our society a richer and deeper experience for all of us.
Thank you. I pretty much endorse what you're saying as a nonprofit executive in this community, that we're very blessed with a very interactive Aloha United Way that really reaches out and is encompassing lots and lots of different agencies and the good work that they all do.
Yeah. Anyways, a couple of housekeeping things. You know, if anyone out there would like to ask a question of Donna or about the subject, or make a comment, you can do that. We are interactive. We provide an interactive civic engagement here, and you can do that with ThinkTech High. Tweet us at ThinkTech High. And we'll see, we have a screen of our Twitter feed, and we can see exactly what you're saying. And Donna will be happy to answer it.
I will. Best of my ability.
And let's see, and the other thing I just wanted to say is if you are interested in the military and its effect on Hawaii, don't forget to attend our program, our luncheon panel program on June 18th at Laniakea. This involves half a dozen of some really interesting speakers on a very interesting topic, and that is the role of the military in Hawaii, how it was, how it is, and how it will be. Will it be better or not? We live in a changing society, and every one of the factors that feeds into the role of the military in Hawaii is changing. And therefore, the role is changing. And we're going to examine that at this program with some very thoughtful and high-level people. So sign up, thinktechhawaii.com. Okay, turning to you, Donna. I was joking before, but who are you in our studio?
Wow, loaded question here. Donna Fouts, local girl, grew up here, Kailua High grad, and spent some time on the mainland, did my college there, met a husband, came back here and began working in the nonprofit segment. I had done that after college also, had been with YWs, muscular dystrophy, and for the last 30 years had been with United Cerebral Palsy Association.
30 years?
I know, God.
But it's actually more. I mean, you've been involved in nonprofits and helping organizations
yes.
for your whole life.
Actually, my whole career.
So why?
You know, I think when those genes get given out, some of us are moved by passion and wanting to help, and others who I admire and commend, you know, may get more drawn toward the for-profit and the business side. I've always been one, you know, oh, that little animal maybe I found, you know, needs support. And working with people with disability is truly an amazing time, because not only you feel, hopefully we're offering programs and quality of life for them, but how I get educated as a human being, that, you know, it isn't only a one-way, oh, we're helping you. I have to tell you, I go home, I tell this story, and if I may, I'll tell it right now on myself. Had just started with cerebral palsy and was sent to a national conference, and I'm like, oh, you know, I left MDA, I know people about disabilities, you know, bring it on. I get on the elevator on the 30th floor, and we stop on the 29th floor.
Where is this then?
I'm actually in New York City.
Okay.
So the elevator stops, and this man gets on with a reclined wheelchair. He has a speech augmentative device he can't speak, but with his electric eye looking at it. It says hello to me, and I go, hello. And he also has a respirator that's basically, helping him breathe. And I'm like, oh, let's just get to the bottom floor. We don't need to have this man die in the elevator on me. And have a good day, you too. And he rolls off, and I walk off. Do you know, Jay, that man was our keynote speaker for United Cerebral Palsy. And what an eye-opener for me that so often, and even today, you have to remind yourself, you don't judge the book by the cover. You see a person with cerebral palsy or other disabilities, and you go, oh my gosh, they're drooling, they've got spastic motions. I mean, intellectually, they must not even know what's going on. Well, wake up. They know very much. Yeah, and they just basically communicate differently, how they're able to respond. If you didn't have all your bodily parts working the way you'd like them to, you'd have to learn to do things differently too. So, yeah, it's a wonderful everyday aha moment for me.
Yeah, every day.
Every day.
You learn from that.
I do.
And it's a metric of our society that we take care of people. The most civilized societies are the ones who take care of the people who are disadvantaged, and we do that in Hawaii. We do that in the U.S., but I think we do it special in Hawaii.
I think you're right there. Yeah.
So you found it, and you never doubted it. All these years, has there been a moment where you say, gee, this is a burden?
No, never. It's something that it floats your soul. You know that it's where you want to be, and you have no desire to be anyplace else. No, never.
So as the executive director, what do you do? What's your day like?
Oh boy, that can be as good as pushing the broom with the best of them. But generally, UCP is a little maybe differently set up than some. Obviously, administratively overseeing the office and all our programs, that falls under the executive director. I do a fair amount of fundraising, and I'm actually one of those silly people that actually enjoys it. I think fundraising is...
Maybe you can help ThinkTech one of these days.
I'd be happy to...
Consultation.
Consultation. I'd be happy to share some ideas maybe we've never used, but I think they're great fundraising. Actually, a dear colleague and I wrote a book, Fundraising 101. I'll have to get you a copy, because there's over 100 proven ways you can raise fund, and I'm sure there's something there that could work for you folks. Yeah. But a fair amount of fundraising.
So Aloha United Way is not the only source of funds for you.
No, not at all. We have a pretty diversified base of fundraising, ways of raising funds. Certainly, we're most appreciative for Aloha United Way as one source. We actually have a foundation, and we may have called you at your dinner hour to interrupt you to say, hi, my name's Donna. I'm with Cerebral Palsy Foundation. We're going to have a truck in your neighborhood next Tuesday. Can we help you by picking up any household items you use, clothing? We have that project that does very well for us. We additionally have some state grants. We additionally have Weinberg Endowment. I mean, so we've got a lot of, and then we do 7 different special events a year. So sometimes, I think you're old enough to relate to this, the old Ed Sullivan show, and there would be that guy that had the plates, and he'd be spinning plate 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And and all of a sudden plate 4s, and you're running back to try to, many days that's how my life is. Oh, it's plate 4 today. Oh wait, 6 needs something. Oh, 3's falling down, So a lot of times it's that constant kind of keeping your touch on it. I'm old-fashioned enough, and heavens knows I endorse social media, so don't get me wrong there, but I believe in talking. I believe, so if the opportunity comes for me, a board member comes in, that wasn't on my agenda, but I'm going to spend some quality time with them one-on-one, because I'm appreciative that they're a board member, So a lot of times your day, never the same, I guess is what I could say, yeah.
Who's your board like?
Actually, I think I have a fantastic board. I've got a board of 30, so that's good size. And maybe they've been trained to be, they're very hands-on in terms of activities. So like if we have special events, they'll come down, volunteer. If we have a special event, I need some help, I'm there, Donna, We only meet quarterly though, the board, and so the great part is that we try not to really burden them, but when the need is there, they're there. We have many board members that you can go a 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1 kind of cycle. And I've had several that have gone 3 or 4 of the 5 years. So I take pride that, there's hundreds of other good causes out there. And if you don't take the time to thank, and listen, and hopefully they're getting something positive out of this. So I want, what can I do to make your experience better? Help me understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that essence of interacting and relating to people for a good cause. It makes your life on the planet just a little better, and it can do the same thing for your board members.
Exactly. Well stated, Jay.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about cerebral palsy.
Okay.
I don't think people in general, and if you walked out on Bishop Street here and said, what is it? I don't think you get a cogent answer from 1 out of 100.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of those unusual, I mean, the name is in itself, United, it's a mouthful just to say, but I think to many people's surprise, and I like to go out a lot on public health awareness programs to speak, that CP, cerebral palsy, is not a disease. I think that surprises. They go, what? No, so it's not a muscular dystrophy, it's not a cancer. This is not something, in a sense, that's going to get progressively worse in terms of the disease, because it's not a disease, it's a condition. You're born. What happens when you're either during pregnancy, during the birthing, or the first few years of life, basically brain cells, something happens, whether it has been a trauma to the brain. Highest rate for CP for young children is child abuse. Somebody in a fit of anger smacks, shakes that baby so hard, we're talking hemorrhaging, permanent brain damage. I can't replace those.
Can you tell what the problem was, that created the cerebral palsy condition?
Sometimes you can, but since it's damage to the brain, no, it's during birthing. Sometimes it's early birthing. I mean, modern medicine is amazing now that children can be born at 14, 18 months gestation, and you're like, oh my gosh, things aren't developed. Weeks, I'm sorry, not months, thank you. That'd be an elephant, I guess.
That'd be something.
Yeah. And what we have found out is that medicine can keep them alive, but if, let's say, respiratory, the lungs aren't providing enough oxygen to the brain or something, that there will be some damage to those brain cells. So anyway, what happens is that this is a condition you're going to have the rest of your life. But the beauty is there are many programs, many therapies, many augmentative devices that can really help provide quality of life, so that your life, you may do things differently, but you're still going to have a good life.
So it's actually brain damage.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes, it is.
And it always takes place before or at birth.
Or the first few years.
Really?
Yeah, because your brain is still developing. Interestingly enough, if it happens later in life, we call it traumatic brain injury. So if you think of James Brady and President Reagan, the shooting, and he got shot in the head, slurred speech, mobility difficulties. Usually when we think of CP, those are the two major parts that are going to be, it's going to be mobility, and it could be very mild, or it could be very, very involved, where you're going to need assistance of a wheelchair or a walker or whatever, and speech. And I often tell people, the person here intellectually knows what they want to say, but from here to here, it doesn't come out.
It's the motor aspect.
It's the motor aspects.
But that's a part of the brain, right?
Correct.
I don't know which part, but it's the part of the brain.
Correct.
So we are assuming that let's call it CP.
Okay, CP.
For a shorthand. That CP is brain damage in the motor part of the brain, not necessarily the thinking part.
Okay, so generally, if you think of your brain, you have three functioning areas. You have the muscle movements, you have the speech center, and you have the intellect. Those are the three functioning areas. CP does muscle movement or speech. However, the intellect is not affected. Now,
never. It's just not part of the diagnosis.
As CP, no. Are there people that are dual diagnosed that can be CP and we used to say mental retardation, now intellectual disabilities?
Yeah.
Yes, there are people that will get a dual, boy, they really got the curveball thrown at them. But generally, CP and it's, so we see bodies that have difficulty talking, and we instantly think, well, they don't understand a word I'm saying. I mean, I could probably spend the next hour telling you success story after success story. And I'll just tell you a quick one of a gentleman.
Tell it to me after the break.
Okay, I'll keep it.
We'll take one break and we'll sort of prepare ourselves for a success story from Donna Fouts. She's the Executive Director of United CP of Hawaii. That's Cerebral Palsy of Hawaii. And we're here on Aloha United We Stand. We're talking about United CP in Hawaii. We'll be right back and we'll hear a success story you'll never forget.
Hi, I'm your host on ThinkTech Asia, Bill Sharp. I look forward to you joining us each Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock when we film right here in our studio in downtown Honolulu. The show, ThinkTech Asia, focuses on contemporary events in Asia. And by Asia, we mean anything from Hawaii, south to Australia and New Zealand, west to Pakistan, and as far north as the Russian Far East. Clearly, this is one of the most economically dynamic centers of the world, and we bring you up to date on what's going on in a whole host of countries in this very vital region. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island. I work in the ER there. But on Tuesday afternoons, I get to come and spend 45 minutes to an hour with Jay Fidell and the ThinkTech staff. They're terrific professionals. They help us to bring some of the leading cutting-edge topics here across our state to you. So you can join us at our show on healthcare in Hawaii to talk with leaders from across all the spectrum of health in our state, or you can join us for any other show where we talk about economic development or tourism or some really eclectic programs too. So really, we'd love to see you here on our show. Thanks for joining us and thanks for supporting us.
Okay, we're back. We're live. I'm Jay Fidell. This is ThinkTech. We're here with Donna Fouts. She's the Executive Director of United Cerebral Palsy of Hawaii. So you were going to give us a success story, and we need to hear this. We've waited about a minute for this story, so we're really excited about it.
Okay, well, I'm equally as excited to share it. This was a gentleman that years ago when we had Waimanu Home, where many of the individuals that were difficult for families to take care of or became wards of the state were assigned there. And this gentleman, local family that just didn't have the resources and felt maybe the state taking care of him would be the best. His CP was pretty involved. He had literally no upper body motion ability, you know, I mean, moved a little bit, but basically sat in a wheelchair and just used his feet to kind of get himself around, and very limited communication skills. And anyway, everyone really just thought, this guy's intellectually, there's nothing there. Well, one day, the doctor came in to do a little exam, I guess, and he dropped his pen that he was writing with on the floor, at which the gentleman in the chair, with his foot, picked the pen up, brought his leg, which, you know, I don't know if I could even do that, lifting, brought his leg up and gave it to the doctor, and the doctor kind of went, oh, wait, you know, something is, everything's clicking here, you know, we need to look at this. Well, they did a battery of tests and realized it was CP, limited speech, but they just, if they would work with him on with speech therapy, probably could get where he could at least communicate his basic needs. And we could probably teach him some skills with his feet. Sure enough, the gentleman became an artist, did some very fine work, and been recognized at a variety of competitions. He later then, now this is 20 years later, we did not know him during that time. We got him after he was out of Waimanu, because he joined a program of ours and lived independently with support in the community. And I remember going to his apartment and him saying, you know, he gets Social Security checks, but he wanted to have a checking account. Okay. I remember going down to the First Hawaiian Bank in Ewa Beach and him rolling in and me walking beside him with our social worker, and they kind of looked at us like, well, how will this gentleman be signing for his checks? Put that put that down, put the pen, beep, beep, signed his name. And we said, oh, they said, I'm sure we could rip the check off for him here. You know, so again, just that ability that when we think of CP and we thought, you know, here, these were professionals, these were doctors up at Waimanu that said, you know, we're checking this guy off, you know, he's got no possibilities. He became an independent living person, living in the community, able to create some income by the wonderful artwork that he did. And the highlight for me was, highlight or almost embarrassment, was going one time to his apartment, and he had some poo-poos, and of course he sat and ate with his feet, and I said, you know, so-and-so, let me try that. Well, his floor never was the same, you know, I spilled it. I mean, I couldn't, I mean, but yeah, it made me realize that, yeah, we, there's not only one right way to do something, so
Yeah,
let's
that's
be
great.
open-minded. So anyway, yeah, a wonderful aha moment
You
that day.
mentioned Waimanu Home.
Yes.
Is that still functioning?
No, no, thank goodness federal regulations came down and every state was obligated to close within a certain period of time. And to Hawaii's credit, we were not the last. I think we were in the top 50% of that we then dispersed and found places for these people. Whether
So now, a
There-
person who might have lived at Waimanu Home, been cared for at Waimanu Home before, is
Correct.
living in the economy, in the community.
in the community, whether that would be with a foster family or something, but yes, there is no more Waimano in terms of a program. The facility, the building is still up there, and I've gone to meetings, and I thought, you know, it's a beautiful building, you know, you're way up, and you've got a beautiful view back, but no programs.
I recall they considered it for a biosafety, regional biosafety lab years
Oh.
ago, but the neighbors didn't like the idea.
I didn't
so
like the
it
idea,
happen.
yeah.
Antigens in the neighborhood nobody
It
wanted that.
wasn't gonna happen.
So anyway, so this fellow, was he in the care of a foster family? Is that
No,
what happened?
he had a personal care attendant that he hired that lived with him, and that person would go out and do things, but this particular gentleman then lived his life doing what he wanted to do, told the care attendant, this is what I want for dinner, this is, you know, so he had someone living with him that was paid for and supported his way of living. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just strikes me, putting ourselves in the shoes of people with this affliction. You know, the families may not want to spend the time with them. I mean, I know that their family should spend the time with them, but sometimes there is no family. And foster family help, and the state would support that. Good to hear that.
yes.
And that you could advocate and facilitate for him and bring together the agencies that would help him out.
That would support him,
And that's
correct.
part of your role, I guess.
It is, very much so, yeah. We have a handful of programs I'd love to share with you.
I'd like you to tell me about it.
Okay. We're probably best known just because when we became an affiliate here in Hawaii, which was statehood, 1959.
You're an affiliate of the National Cerebral Palsy Association.
Yeah.
United Cerebral Palsy
Association.
National, okay.
Now, the interesting thing to that is, I don't know too many other nonprofits, the local affiliates started first before there became a national. Yeah, very interesting. Usually a national starts and says, okay, now we're gonna farm ourselves out to all the states. What happened is, a couple of noted families in the East Coast, in the New York area, had children, and they would go to these physicians and say, what does my child have? This was back in the late 30s and 40s, 1940s. And they go, well, we think it's a condition that we call cerebral palsy. And so, like, New York started up, and this gentleman was in the film industry, and he had some friends in California, so California started up, and pretty soon, you know, several, and they said, well, we need a national body kind of to coordinate for us, you know, so it's a very different.
It's the reverse twist,
Yes,
yeah.
very
yeah.
different, yeah.
But it means that there were problems all over the country.
Yes.
And that there were people who were kind enough to establish organizations
Nations.
to help
Correct.
these victims, and then they came together nationally.
Right. Correct.
And that's a credit to all of them.
Right. And now with the national, I mean, we have a wonderful presence up in DC where the national office is. There's a lot of research going on that as an individual affiliate, you know, we couldn't afford to do so. I mean, there's much value to belonging to a national.
What, information, for example?
Information, and that they.
Expertise
Expertise.
and contact with experts, I guess.
Exactly. And there are times when nationally they have the clout to be able to say to a national company, would you like to be a sponsor? So they go, oh, wow, not only am I sponsoring in New York, but, you know, California, Florida, you know, all
For
these
one
states.
of your programs.
Yeah, for one of our programs. So there's been a wonderful connection that way, yeah.
How about legislation?
They do a lot
What
on
kind
the
of
Hill.
legislation would you do
Oh.
for CP?
Well, we were very big on certainly ADA, you know, bill, that passed, of course, that's like 20-some years ago now, isn't it? Yeah.
Was it early 1990, I think it was,
1990,
right
yeah,
around then,
yes, so it's
25 years.
25 years.
Sorry to tell you that.
No,
Donna.
no, I was working for CP. I remember when it happened. So we work on that. We work a lot in collaboration with other nonprofits. So Association for Retarded Citizens is one. We'll work with other groups, autism. Ironically, that wasn't even in our vocabulary 20 years ago. And 1 in 68 now born, they say, will be on that spectrum of autism. That's a scary, and that child, that's a disability. And so that gets me to, I think so often people hear our name and assume we only service those that have cerebral palsy, and that's erroneous. United Cerebral Palsy, we have this wonderful mission statement that says, we're going to provide quality of life to those affected with cerebral palsy and other similar service needs. So as I started to share, one of our programs is our early intervention. This is a program for children birth to 3 that have been diagnosed with a disability, not necessarily CP. We see probably, about 350 children a year in that program. Less than 10% are CP probably right now. Autism is huge.
But
And
functionally, it's similar. And definitely.
Well, autism, and heavens knows I'm no expert on autism. I'm sure you could have autism speakers, one of those groups come and talk with you, but we're now talking the social side of the disability. So their inability to interact in an acceptable manner in the community. So, but if you saw a child with autism and you saw someone with CP, the CP, you'd go, oh, I know that kid's got a disability. But if the kid with autism didn't say anything right away, you might not know just because of the physicalness of it, but it's more this other side of the brain that's affected.
We did have a show with
did
the
you?
Variety School.
Oh, Variety School would be one.
Largely addressed to that.
Yes, Variety School now has many, many children with autism. Yeah. So this early intervention program that we do, like I say, birth to 3, and once they reach 3, then they move on to DOE, believe it or not, if they have a special need. But they come in and they have to be lacking in like a handful of life skills, whether that's motor skills, whether that's social skills, whether that's the ability to feed themselves, or what, So there's a battery of tests that are applied, and yep, they qualify. And so we have these young children, all walks of life, and to me, that floats my boat when I see these young children, and some of them come in at one level, and when they've left us 3 years later, or 2.5 years, once they reach 3, their ability it may be no more than being able to lift their head up or take their first steps, and now we've gotten braces for them, so we're moving on with them.
What about strokes? Does stroke fit within that container you described?
And this is Donna Fouts, not a PhD, speaking, that I feel that many of the outcomes that you see from a stroke, that inability to speak, and that certain sense of you can't use certain muscles to do things, like paralysis, there's very much similarity. So in terms of programming, yes, there would be. And we get some of our young children that have had major seizures that have led to strokes, and this is,
it's a side effect of the...
Yeah.
What about military, traumatic brain injuries? What about that?
Right, yes.
Do you handle, would you tolerate, include them in your container?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So we get, we had a young child, as you can tell, I'm a storyteller. I had a young child that joined our Child Development Center. It's called our Early Intervention Program, which is the one that AUW helps provide funds for. And this was a young, happy couple, married, mom, dad, both working 2 jobs, trying to make ends meet. I mean, these were good parents. Mom was off to her second job. Dad was home with the baby. It was Friday night. He had some friends over barbecuing. And I don't know if you remember, but I think they used to be called Johnny wind-ups. They were the little swings, and you'd put a baby in it, and then you crank it, and it would go for 2, 3, 4 minutes. And the dad was barbecuing. Maybe he had 1 too many beers, I don't know. But anyway, he had set the swing up, the baby was happy, and the swing stopped. And instead of going either and picking the baby up or cranking it again, he was a big guy, big local guy. He thought, oh, I'll give the swing a push with my foot, I'll get it going. He pushed too hard, the whole thing collapsed, and it was close to an edge of a sort of, not a mountain, but an embankment, and the thing fell, the baby, kaboom, 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 down, hemorrhaging, permanent brain damage. You know, and I know if that dad had a 2-second instant replay in his life, you
He
know,
must be living that over and over again.
over and over. This child will have cerebral palsy the rest of his life, you know. So sometimes, you know, we get stories like that, and anytime you have a disability in the family, it's a family. I mean, the families that
Huge pressure on the family.
on the family, it's the other siblings, so we work a lot with the families, understanding. Our national has a wonderful Life Without Limits to Children website that parents, they've just given birth, they come to our program, they can link up, they can be talking to someone in Lizard Breath, Idaho. I've got it, oh, my child does that, oh, what do you, I mean, so this whole ability, years ago, it was almost like we sort of.
Before you
yeah.
go to that, I want to take a short break and come back, and we'll have another 15 minutes to
Okay.
conclude the show. Remember your hold the thought. Donna Fouts, she's the Executive Director of United CP of Hawaii, and we're talking here about Aloha United We Stand and the United CP in Hawaii. We'll be right back. We're going to hear the end of that story, and then we're going to go into how your mission will change in the future because of changes in medical science. Okay, we'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Kili'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week, we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live for our final segment of our show with Donna Fouts. She's the Executive Director of United and Cerebral Palsy of Hawaii. Here on Aloha United We Stand. So, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I apologize. Follow that story.
Oh, okay. Boy, where were we? We were talking on, I told you about the family and
Yeah.
the young man and, you know, the sadness. But really, it's working and leading up to the families that whenever a family has someone with a disability, and it's more than just that person. It's, as you said, you know, the family learning, getting over the guilt. It's also, you know, learning to be able to communicate. So years ago, it used to be if you had a child with special needs or a disability, it's sort of like you didn't really talk about it. You know, maybe your closest friends knew. And now, to me, it's so wonderful. It's just out there, as it should be.
People
just
talk about it.
talk about it. Let's discuss, you know, let's try this. Yeah, we're doing this. You might try that. I mean,
That's part of the therapy. That's part of keeping the family, you know, together and functioning.
keeping them together, and also just maintaining that you really are no different. I mean, we have a poster that says, you know, how do you treat a person with a disability? Like a person. I mean, you don't treat them any differently.
That's a wonderful
I mean,
idea.
duh. But I mean, so often we've tried to shelter, you know, no, come on, blend in. It's that wonderful lyrics from South Pacific that says, you know, you've got to be taught to hate and fear, you know, from that song. And I think it's the same. We do a public health education where we go, and my favorite is about 2nd or 3rd grade, and you go in with assistive technology devices, and those kids are, oh, I want to try it, oh, that's so neat, you got to reach your, oh, you know, I mean, they're enamored with all the bells and whistles. You go back at about 5th grade, and they go, oh, spastic, oh, I know, like, touch that, you know, and I'm like.
That's what they learned.
They learned it, you know, and when you start off, especially at the young age, how many of you, you know, maybe have grandmas, is any in a wheelchair? Oh yeah, my grandma takes me for a ride. I mean, it's neat at that age, and you know, that they just accept it. And so it's like, where do we start getting that, oh, this is touchy, no, we don't want to be. So we try to do a lot of programs, sort of inner blending of people with disabilities and not having disabilities, because obviously if you grow up with it, it's no big thing, but if you haven't, And I think it really is just ignorance, you know, that I don't know how to act around a person with a disability. If it's, you know, I don't want to do something wrong, so more
Just
easy.
stay away and
Yeah,
not
I'm more
engage.
easy and make stupid remarks, yeah.
Let me take the flip side of it, though.
Please.
Say, you know, we have your help. We have a family under great stress because they have to figure out how to deal with this change and with the, you know, possibility of embarrassment or an inability of dealing with a person with a handicap as a person. You know, they have to learn that's an acquired skill, I guess. So suppose they don't learn it properly. Suppose they, as a family unit, can't handle it. I mean, it is stressful. Suppose, you know, you can't put Humpty back together again. What happens to them?
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up. I would say, if there's anything the disability community is good on, boy, it's that evaluation. So you set a goal and you evaluate. You set a goal and you evaluate. That one will be set for the family as well. You know, how do you feel? Oh, I think I could use some help. And the next time, about 6 months later, we evaluate. And how are you feeling on that? Oh, I could still use help. So, I mean, it's not gonna one time and then they didn't catch it and now it's, so if they don't, when they move to DOE, it's gonna come up there again when they move on. And hopefully we can support that child to the best of their abilities. There are occasionally families that have said to us, I don't have the strength to do this. You know, we've worked with them. They've then found Hanai family friends that maybe that child will live with. I mean, it's not something we ever endorse because I think, you know.
The real family is the real one.
Is it? But love is what it's about, you know. So if many times that Hanai family or someone is going to care and nurture, then that is the right place for that child because that's, you know, what we want. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but you don't let go.
No,
You never let go.
No, we don't.
That's part of the job.
That's part of the job. Yep.
So my last area of inquiry with you, Donna,
Okay.
is, you know, and I never got an answer. We were schmoozing before the show, you know, and you said something about how the technology was changing, and I'd like to know how. And of course, you know, if it changes successfully, you'll be out of a job. That your mission will change to the point where, you know, you don't need to do anything or somehow. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But what do you see the future
Sure.
of medical science, technology, you know, in the way of helping people who have this affliction? And what do you see for CP and the United CP community going forward?
Right.
You've seen it for 30 years, so you can answer my question. I
Oh,
know you can.
Well, I do believe that I would love to be worked out of a job. That would be the ultimate. Sadly, I don't think that's going to happen. And as we were talking earlier, many reasons why someone could be born with a disability, and not only cerebral palsy. And I had shared with you, and these weren't even words in our vocabulary 15 years ago, the number of young mothers being addicted to crack and coke. We have seen a huge spike in young children being born CP or other
Because
disabilities.
that is one of the ways you can get CP.
Correct. I mean, you're damaging that. So, I mean, I go out and talk to at-risk group and say, you know, if you've got an addiction problem, you know, whether that's alcohol or drugs or whatever, one thing, if you're not HAPI, it's your life you're wrecking up. But do know that if you're HAPI, you're pregnant, you're, and this mess up isn't, oh, they can go get therapy. They're going to have it the rest of their life. So if for nobody else, go get help now, you know, if you're pregnant, so that this is not a child that you're going to give birth to that should have had, come on, better odds than what you're giving this poor kid.
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
Does that work?
To some extent, yes, I believe it does, because we educate. Many people go, oh, I didn't know that. I thought it would just pass through the baby, you know. So we talk to the families and that, and I'm amazed, yes, I think it does. I mean, that awareness for all of us, the more we know, oh my gosh, I would never have thrown my baby up, you know. That's one of the worst things. You see people, you know, throwing their babies up. We've had, in my lifespan at CP, 2 different times, someone has thrown their child up and just, unfortunately, the child slipped through their hand, came down, one hit the corner of a coffee table. And you're like, oh my gosh, they were having fun. How could this have happened? And another one was you go grocery shopping. You don't want to run into me at Safeway if you've got a toddler and that toddler is fussy. Either you make them sit in a little pull-out section, or you carry them, or you let them walk with you. You never let a child stand in a grocery basket. 100 times a year, not Hawaii, but nationwide, 100 times a year, that baby reaches for something, falls out, falls on their head, permanent brain damage. I know, you think, oh my gosh, if I didn't know that, I would have never let my baby.
The supermarket.
Yeah, supermarket, yeah. So like I say, you don't want to run into me at Safeway. Oh, why don't you pick your baby up? I work for Cerebral Palsy. But, so in that respect, sadly, I think we will have disabilities continue. But on the bright side, technology, amazing. There are programs now that, as I was sharing, and these aren't even first A-rate ones, I mean, these have been around a while, that if you can't speak, but you know, they'll hook this electric little eye to you and you can point at letters, you can communicate with anybody. It's just a different way. And then what used to sound like, you know, Flash Gordon or something, all these broken voices, sound pretty, you know, give Siri a run for the money. You know, they're sounding pretty good, you know, hi, my name's so-and-so, and da-da-da. So that, and we also are seeing, as medical advances are happening, and one of them, and I'm not here to get on people's religious views or anything, but stem cell. Stem cells are these healthy cells that research is showing you put it next to an affected cell, the good cell can, or I'm sorry, put it next to a healthy cell, it can take on that healthy cell identity, and then that cell could be replaced for...
So you can regenerate brain cells that have been damaged.
Yes, you can.
Whoa.
But you know the interesting thing, and this will just have both you and I kind of, oh my. I've talked to several adults that, you know, we do services with, and said, wow, would that be exciting? And they go, I wouldn't want it. I am who I am, and I have no desire to be different. So that's a whole nother discussion. Like, we assume as the professionals, well, of course you want to be fixed. And now these are people that are older in life that have said, you know what, I wouldn't change anything in my life. Am I different than you? Yes, but what makes you think that your life is better than mine, Donna? And I have to go, thank you, touche. I should not. So that brings me around to, whenever we deal with people with disabilities, it's really, what do you want? You know, help me understand. You know, you want something, we are here as United Cerebral Palsy to help you. You tell me, buzz off, sister, there's nothing I want from you. Hey, thanks. Come see us if there is anything that we can help you with, you know, and we'll send you information on programs we do. Maybe our recreational program will sound like something you want to do, you want to socialize, but the old days of, we're going to spoon feed you, this is how it has to be. I think our community has changed, and personally, I endorse it. I think that's very good.
That's great, Donna. Thank you so much for sharing all that.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk, and thank you to Aloha United Way for all the good that they're doing in our community.
Wow, Donna Fouts. I know she loves her job, and she's going to do it for as long as she possibly can. 30 years, going on 60, going on 90.
Yeah.
United Cerebral Palsy, she's the executive director in Hawaii, and we've been talking about the UCP in Hawaii, the organization, and for that matter, the condition. Here on Aloha United we stand. Thank you so much, Donna.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.